welcome to my home. I'm not sure about this hair. Now this is so much better. We all know that Halloween is coming up, and I thought I'd tell you a couple of ghost stories. One story that happened to me in particular, and another story that somebody else told me. So I thought it'd be good for Halloween, set you up, get you in the mood. One particular thing that happened to me when I was young, probably about 12 years old, 13, my parents used to send me to this old church for extra lessons. And I went along with a friend, and we used to have the lessons and they had a break in between. And during this break we used to go and play or whatever, but one particular day we decided we'd go and explore the church and look around. And we'd looked around all over the place and seen a few places within that church, but we had never explored the basement. So off we go, down to the basement, down some stairs. No one was there, no one was watching us, no one was looking out. The tutors thought we were all outside playing. And we found a long corridor that we started walking down with a door at the end that was closed. And we went down this corridor and I opened the door, and it was dark inside, and I think there was like a light on the left. I remember pulling something, so it was like one of those string lights where you pull the light and it comes on. And I saw stairs going down into the floor, just wooden stairs, no banisters or anything to hold on to. My friend's behind me, and we both peek in and we look in this room, and there's nothing in the room at all, except one piano in the middle and a stool. And this piano had its keys showing, so the lid was up. And suddenly this piano just started playing. The keys were going up and down and it was playing music, just like that. My friend and me just stood there and looked in horror. And I was just in shock, and I was standing there, and suddenly I felt a bit frightened, obviously. I turned around, my friend had run. She was gone, she was nowhere to be seen. I just turned around and I flew off after her. We both ran home. My friend ran home to her house, I ran home to mine. We told our parents we are not going back, that place was haunted. And our parents didn't actually ever send us back or force us to go back. No one believed us. But later on, much later on, years later, I heard that a priest was giving a sermon in that church and he fainted in the middle of the sermon. Apparently why? Because he claimed he'd seen a ghost at the back of the church walk past the congregation. How eerie is that? That's what happened to me, and I swear that piano, it wasn't playing. As soon as I opened that door and we looked in, that piano just started playing. Loud music. It wasn't even a wind-up piano, it was just an ordinary piano. Pretty eerie, and that's what happened to me. My next story involves another friend. Well, not really a friend, somebody I knew through someone else, but we were all out to dinner one day. And he said that he'd sold his house recently. And he said he was quite glad he sold his house. So we asked him why, and he said, well, he bought this house a few years ago, and him and his wife, they used to sit in the back room and it overlooked their garden, and at the back of the garden there was a gate. And he was sitting watching TV one day and he saw a lady dressed in white crossing the back of the garden and going out through the back gate. And he thought, that's odd. How did that happen? No one can get access into the garden from like the back of his house out to the gate. They'd have to come in through the gate and then go back out through the gate. So he went out into the back garden, walked back down to the end of the garden, went through the gate, no lady there, nothing. And he said this kept happening a few times, and he kept checking and nothing. So then he realised it must be a ghost. So he used to sit watching the TV with his wife, and his wife, he didn't tell her anything, she would just watch the TV. So he thought he didn't want to scare her, he wouldn't tell her. And then it was about a year later, he said, or maybe about a year and a half, they were watching TV and the same thing happened. Lady in white comes across the garden, walks down the end of the garden and lets herself out the back of the gate. So he looked at his wife, and his wife was looking out in the back garden as well. She turned around and looked at her husband, and he said to her, "You've seen it, haven't you?" And she said, "Yes, I've been seeing it for years. It's a ghost." So that's two people that saw the same thing. So don't tell me that ghosts don't exist. I have one other story for you, which I'm going to tell you now, where two people see the same thing. My brother and his friend were out one day, and it was raining really badly, and they were looking for shelter. And they were down the back of like a riverbank, and they were at the back of houses and other buildings, and they managed to cross over and get into like an old school building. This old school building was built around the 1800s, so it was very old. And he said they went to go to the door and try the handle to look for shelter. The back of the school was open, and they actually went in. They were about 15, 16 years old. So they didn't want to take anything from the school, they just wanted shelter. And they were just starting to look around while the rain eased off. And they were looking in all the classrooms, walking down the hallways. And these doors into these classrooms had windows that you could look through into them. So they're just going around looking, and suddenly they heard piano music, and they thought, this is odd. Someone's probably here, people are here, probably music lessons. It was a Saturday afternoon. So they go up to where the music lessons are, because they think, oh, they won't be seen or anything. They can't see anybody there, they won't be seen, because probably people in the classroom, they just hear piano music, nothing at all. So curiously, they go to where they hear this music. They come to the floor where the music is, and they walk down the corridor to the door which enters the classroom, and it's got a window in it. So he said they both look in through this window, and they said the sun was shining, it wasn't raining, it was a sunny day when they looked through the window, and they saw like an old-fashioned classroom set up like in the 1800s, wooden desks, things like that. Didn't think anything of it, and they saw a girl playing the piano, and she was playing the piano beautifully. But then he said they looked closer and they realised this girl was dressed exactly like school children would dress back in the 1800s, with a little pinafore dress, plaits and a little hat on. And they looked around the classroom and they realised it was set up exactly like the 1800s, and they realised what they'd seen, that they were looking back into the past, a window into the past obviously, and they were looking at a ghost. They saw a ghost of a girl playing a piano. They suddenly looked at each other, they got frightened and they ran, and they didn't stop to look back. Now, that old school, it's now been turned into flats. But it makes me wonder if in those flats with those new people living there, if sometimes they don't hear a girl playing a piano. I don't know, you tell me. I hope you have a lovely Halloween and you stay safe and enjoy yourself and get lots of treats and no tricks. I have to get back to my own work, I'm afraid, so I'll have to leave you and see you next time. Have a wonderful Halloween.